Well, welcome to Conversations for Creatives. If you've been following us, we've been doing a couple of videos, a couple of talks, a couple of just good conversations about the life of an artist. And there's so many deep conversations that we can have, and we're gonna have those about, strategies, about the actual motion of a career in music. Chris and I have been in business for over 15 years. We've been doing music professionally for a really, really long time. And we've learned so many things. We've made so many mistakes. We've also had really great, success, thankfully. And there's so much of that we want to share with you guys. There's so much of our life, of our careers, of ideas, of strategies, of pitfalls to avoid, of all of these things that we share with our artists whenever we're working with them on songwriting, on production, on artist development. There's so many things that we love sharing, and that's what these conversations for creatives are about. And also, before we go into it, one of the reasons that we wanted to call it Conversations for Creatives, we are for sure concentrating on what is the music industry. But we also know that the music industry doesn't happen independently. It happens with a team of creative people and creative people that we've got to have conversations with. And that's also one of the things that I'm really excited about this series is the fact that so many of the things that we're talking about touch the people that are in visuals, people that are in film, people that are in TV, people that are in business, people that are managers. And creative. That's why we wanted to call it Conversations for Creatives. So before we really dive into those videos about, music industry and publishing and the specifics of that, we've started off these videos really diving into mindset. And we did that because without understanding that mindset, there's going to be a lot of disconnect in your music career.
And actually, I had to take trips to LA, and most people, the first question they ask when I talk about I have an artist is, well, are they running like a business? Like, are they set up? Do they have an LLC? Are they doing DBA? Do they have spreadsheets? Do they, and that's a whole mindset. Like, a lot of artists don't think business. They don't think, oh, someone actually is trying to make money with this. And so record labels are a bank that lends you money to make that happen and resources. And, artists are just wanting to have fun and be in the creative playground. So there's this disconnect sometimes, and it has to do with how you think about the industry. And how you think about the industry now turns into, okay, this is a business. I need to have a manager. I need to have a wardrobe person. I need to have this, and there's a whole list of things that you need. And you as the leader, because you're the centerpiece, if you're the artist, or if you're a producer, you're a piece of the puzzle, and knowing where to fit in and how to interact. And John and I have been on the artist side and on the producer side, and sometimes as a producer, when I have an artist that comes in, can't communicate, can't tell me, it's just like, oh, I want more, I don't know, like for it to sound like a space, like I'm in outer space. I'm like, okay, well, we have to learn these things. And so there's a level of education, there's a level of maturity of communication,
of experience,
and just being able to interact with professionals in the industry, that if you go into, if you're a novice and you go into work with a high-end producer and you say, I just kind of want to sound like I'm underwater, and that could sound like a lot of things. Like the producer be thinking of something and you be thinking something else. So just the levels of communication, the mindset of being able to communicate and educating yourself, those are things that we're exposing at the very beginning, because they're the foundation of what's going to propel you forward to be successful in all of the aspects of the music industry. So
so it's preparing that mindset for once we really dive into strategies and these things that are a little bit more, I guess, practical advice, we want to make sure that your mindset is right, because otherwise it's going to be a waste. It's going to be a waste of your time. We've done a couple of these already, and the first one that we did, we called it defining your why. And when we talked about that, we went into just why are you doing this? And I'm not going to recap everything because you can go and watch the video. That video is on YouTube. But we went through just why are you doing what you're doing? Do you really understand your why? Because without your why, then you're not going to have the fuel for the long haul. There's going to be times in your music career, where things aren't going to be, people aren't going to be calling. You're not going to be getting those placements. You're not going to be getting the calls. Your songs might not be getting the traction that you're wanting. And without understanding and truly understanding your why am I doing this, those are the moments where people quit. Those are the moments where people say, you know what, I'm going to do something else. It obviously wasn't in the cards for me. And I don't necessarily agree with it wasn't in the cards for me. Maybe you just didn't have, the fuel to keep going, and that is your why. Yeah, for sure. The passion, it comes from your why. So one of the things in that first video, defining your why, that we landed on was, to me, when I was talking about a career in music, I talked about 4 things and 4 questions that you have to ask yourself. The first one is, do I like it? Do I like what I'm doing? Do I genuinely enjoy what I do? 2, am I good at it? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Am I good at it? And really honestly answering that question, am I good at it? The third thing is, am I successful at it? Because if you don't like it, and if you're not good at it, you're probably not going to be successful at it. And then the fourth thing is it unique? So we're going to get to all of these things, but today we're going to dive into, am I good at it? Which is why today is defining your what. Right.
And the why is really an anchor. The way I look at it for me personally is, my why is I'm passionate about helping people through music. So it's like being in the ocean. You drop an anchor and the boat can float around a certain area, but it doesn't really stray, and it keeps you in the vicinity of where that anchor is set. So my anchor is, I love helping, I love developing, I love mindset development, I love watching a person go from having nothing to an actual business as a musician. And so my anchor is it hovers around, or my ship and my boat and my places where I move is hovering around that centerpiece. And so if I see a young artist, and by young I don't mean like age, I mean like it's just starting out. So you can be 30, 40 and be a young artist. The persona of the artist that you are is young, fresh, new. When I see a young artist moving through and listening and expanding and growing, that's what propels and gives me that fulfillment of my passion, my anchor. And so my what consists of so many things. Like, what do I do? What am I good at? I'm good at making music. I'm good at vocal production. I'm good at producing. I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at leading people. And all these things fulfill that passion, and they are tied to that anchor. So sometimes people get caught up in saying, well, I want to be an artist and that's it. I don't want to be anything else. Or I want to be a producer and I'm not really an artist. And it's a personal choice. It's not a wrong answer. It's not good or bad. But I see people like Pharrell that are producers, and not necessarily, for a while he did have his band. Yeah. So he was an artist. But then you see him kind of like, okay, I'm kind of like doing that for my own personal thing. And then you don't hear anything from NERD. And then all of a sudden he's performing with another artist on the stage somewhere. And he's fulfilling these things that whatever his why is, it still embarks him producing and performing, and I've seen him make connections with brands and all this other stuff. So that why keeps him anchored in not straying to go and be a techie in computers, you know? Like your why and your passion and what makes you, you know, wake up in the morning and say like, I get to go to work. Or when you're at work and you're like, I don't want to leave. Like, you know, not that you don't want to be home or anything like that, but it's just you're having such a great time. It's fulfilling you. You're in a good place. That's a passion-driven why, and that could be attached to a lot of whats. So then, what I think we're gonna talk about today is how do you know what those whats are? You know, and that's where we're gonna share stories, and John's gonna share a story about Shannon and Hello Shannon. If you don't know who Hello Shannon is, look her up. Great music produced by John.
Incredible music.
And a beautiful, amazing artist that has a great voice. So go check her out.
So I'm gonna tell two quick stories. The first one is I'm gonna tell just a super quick about myself. So when I was in high school, I was a wrestler. So I wrestled in high school, and I was in choir as well, right? So I've known that I wanted to do music since I was 8 years old. I knew that I wanted to help create music. I didn't know that it was called production, but I knew that I loved the idea of working with people, of arranging, of everything that I have names for now, but back then it was just like making music. So I knew that very, very, and I count myself lucky to have figured that out early on. And so when I was in high school, I was on the wrestling team. I was a varsity wrestler, and I was also in choir. And I remember there was one specific weekend where we had a tournament, and we had a wrestling tournament, but we also had a solo and ensemble choir competition. And I had to make a choice because it was, okay, I can either go to the wrestling tournament or I can go to this choir solo and ensemble competition. And in high school, as a guy, choosing choir over going to a wrestling competition is like, okay, really? But, it was a very easy choice for me. I went to the choir competition. And I remember one of my buddies that was on the wrestling team asked me, you know, why aren't you going to the wrestling competition? And for me, it was like, I enjoy wrestling. I enjoy the sport. I enjoy the athletic part of that. But my what is music. My what is here, and this is the trajectory. And so even though I like this and I can do this, this is what I'm going after. And so that why connected to a what that immediately said, bam, there's your road. And choir, for me, again, this is my story, joining choir, doing that, that's how I got into the University of North Texas through vocal performance because of the time that I spent mastering that craft and preparing and studying and training in that. So I was not going to become a professional wrestler. You know, I knew what my what was, I knew what my why was, and that connected to a what do I do, and that just made that path very clear to me. So the other story is, so Shannon from Hello Shannon, which is my wife, one of the things, she also went to the University of North Texas, which, if you don't know, has one of the best jazz programs in the country and in the nation, nationwide, and some could argue the world. But I'm a very proud North Texas alumni. I'm very proud of that. So when Shannon was in high school, she fell in love with, she was introduced to Imogen Heap, Regina Spektor, Kate Nash, those kinds of artists that wrote outside of the box. You know, if you've ever heard Imogen Heap, you probably know her from she was sampled on a Jason Derulo track, I think. But look her up. and you'll know who she is. But very interesting music, very out of the box music. So Shannon was introduced to this in high school, and immediately she knew that she wanted to be a songwriter, but it immediately said, ooh, that's what I want to do within the world of songwriting. That's a little bit more defined of how I want to be a songwriter. And so that helped her make a decision as far as, okay, well, how do I want to educate myself in order to pursue that? And her answer to that was, I need to speak the language of jazz. Not necessarily because I want to become a jazz singer, but because I need to speak that language in order to write outside of the box. Chris was telling me a story. Somebody told you jazz is if you learn jazz, you can produce anything.
If you study jazz, you basically can produce whatever.
Yeah, if you study jazz, you can produce anything. So we both love jazz, but it isn't necessarily about, oh, I'm going to study jazz because I want to become a jazz artist. And for Shannon, it was, I need to study jazz because I need to master that language so that I can write songs that speak a higher language than I can currently speak. And so what do I do? I'm this kind of songwriter that can do this and this and that. And in order to get there, it requires me to do this. It requires me to have this sort of education. It requires me to master this what. And so when we're talking about defining your what we're really talking about is mastering your what. It's very easy to say, well, what do you do? Okay, well, and I've always told people, if you can play 3 chords, you're a guitarist. Now, have you mastered the guitar? That's a whole different conversation. And in order to really make waves in your music career, in order to have longevity in your music career, in your career in general, in anything, you have to realize that there is a mastery involved. We're living in a day and age where everybody that has a MacBook has GarageBand. Anybody can produce, but how many masters of that craft are there? And the masters are the ones that have longevity. Mm-hmm. So you gotta be good at something. Mm-hmm. And you have to realize that you do have to be good at something, and you have to take time to master it. And that's another part where for musicians, the time and the patience is a struggle, but it does take time to master something. And the other part of that is Chris said this earlier, you can have multiple whats. Yeah. And the more whats you have, each of them take times to master, but at the end of the day, when we're talking about defining your what, you're talking about defining something that you are going to claim to be a master of, and be honest with yourself, which is why that first thing, I like it, I'm good at it. I'm good at it because I've taken the time to master it.
Yeah, and a lot of people think you can't have a lot of whats, like you should concentrate and focus, and there's a power in that. There is, definitely. I think for me personally, what I do as an artist developer is a whole different monster. It's almost like I made my own career in what I do, and so I had to be at least heavily knowledgeable in several things, from music production to music theory, songwriting, lighting, putting on a production like this. I'm at least to be able to oversee, great projects, how to direct, how to get the best out of an artist when they're performing, when they're, how to train them, how to move, how to do. So I had to, in the long haul, acquire a lot of things that would make what I do successful. And so if I would have just said, well, I'm just going to produce, which is nothing wrong with that, then that artist development title does not come into fruition. Now, what is your what? You have to So you say, well, how do I know? What is that? How can I figure that out? Well, there's like several little things that we're going to share with you today, and experiences that have helped us, kind of define our what behind the why. The why will not change for me. I love doing music with people because it brings healing. It brings people from level 1 to level 10, turns them into business people within the industry. I love that. It's a passion of mine. But sometimes the what for me is, writing in Excel spreadsheets. Sometimes the what for me is sitting down with one of my artists for 2 hours and doing songwriting tactics that I've developed a curriculum based out of Berklee School of Music that I had to study myself and put it into paper. Sometimes my what is producing a song with my artists and, okay, what kick do you want? It looks so different, so many different things as what I'm doing. My whats are so many. I've had investors and people say, how do you know all this? And it's just, I know what my why is, and then I see a need with my artists, and I have to fulfill that need. And when I'm talking, I have to be knowledgeable about it. Now, that's an ongoing thing. Like you don't escape that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in these 4 or 5 things that we're going to share with you. But one of the main things about your what is that if it's anchored, and you're anchored into your passion, it's not going to stray, and everything you learn and you do, your what is basically you're doing, what you do.
Yeah.
What is what you do to propel or execute your why. So for some, it might be, I perform every day. I want to get on the stage and I perform because I love music and I want to share the specific songs that I've chosen because I love these songs. They bring me memories, whatever it may be. So for some, it's producing. For some, it's managing. And within the music industry, I could keep naming things, but there's whats that are aligned to the whys. And those whats can vary. Now, do you have to get good, like John said? Yeah, so that means you have to, at some point, acquire this knowledge. So I'm going to share with you just quickly, and then we're going to dive in. You can acquire this knowledge from people. You can acquire this knowledge from epicenters, like the Creative Factory is an epicenter. We do a lot of things here. We do video, we do podcasts, we do photo shoots, we do music videos, we do production, we help people register their songs, we help develop artists, we teach voice lessons, but only if it's in the center of a person that's actually a serious artist. So it's not a school, it's a place where you can come get mentorship and get close to someone that actually is doing music like the music business is done. So an epicenter, there's several, you gotta really dig deep into that city that you're in. Gatekeepers, if you know a gatekeeper that has a network and he can guide you, he might not be your manager, he might just be a friend that says, hey, this is what you should do. But that person has knowledge, has network, has doors that they can open for you. There's so many gatekeepers in your city, and there's gatekeepers in LA and New York and Nashville that you can say, okay, this person is a manager that manages these people. That's a gatekeeper. He's good. He makes things happen. Get close to that gatekeeper. Go and align yourself. Alignments, huge, guys. Synergistic movements. Like if there's something in your city, a festival or like a movement, an underground movement or art shows or whatever, there's synergy there. And synergy, if you don't know what synergy is, go look it up. But basically, we're a lot of people that do types of arts that can expand you or work together with or give you exposure. They come together in these little movements and synergistic hubs. Find out what they are and get there.
And in those synergistic hubs, it's a great thing because I've also seen going into one of these synergistic hubs where it's maybe an arts festival or maybe just a gathering of sorts. But what happens in those things as well is you go into it with a certain what, and you're exposed to another what, another this person does this, and I didn't even realize this was a thing. I've heard this story from songwriters a lot where it was like, I didn't realize you could just be a songwriter and you didn't have to be an artist. Yeah. And so they thought their what was this, and they were in a synergistic movement in an epicenter of different people doing different things.
Yeah.
And they saw another what, and it was, oh, I was exposed to this thing that actually lines up more with my why than what I originally thought my what was. Yeah. So that's also a huge thing.
Yeah, and lastly, simple, you can do this alone, you can do it online. Read, watch documentaries. Netflix has documentaries about people. Hulu has things. You can learn so much. There's actually even shows that give you insight into the music industry if you find them. There's autobiographies, there's biographies, there's documentaries. So there's so many things that you can use to explore your what. Because what happens is your why is defined, but then what you do, some people go so deep into settling their what, and then deep in there's like, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Like, this is not what I want to do forever. So that's why I think having several what's and being good at it, like you can shift back and forth. Yeah. It's, it's within your passion, it's within your thing. So we're gonna hit number one, which is people. And these are very, very practical things. This is more of a practical talk. Get close to people that will build you, that do what you think you want to do. We used to work with Frisco School ISD, and they had a program called ISM, and we allowed 11th graders and 12th graders to come and sit with us and ask us questions and just be a fly in the wall, as we call it, be in the room while we're doing what we do, because they, at 11th and 12th grade, wanted to know, I kind of want to be a producer. Okay, come sit. Come sit. And some of those ended up going to Belmont, ended up going to, Full Sail or wherever they chose. And some of them were like, yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. I don't really think I wanted to do that. And so aligning yourself and spending some time going, and now Gen Z, and I know this is not computing in here, but give your time to align yourself with someone that you think you might want to go and do that thing. And what giving your time means is like, hey, can I sit here? No. Don't, you can't sit here. I had someone reach out to me and that has absolutely no weight in the music industry, and he asked me, he goes, this actually was this week. He's like, hey, I just want to come by and see if we can collab. But bro, what do you mean you're gonna collab with me, brother? Like, no. When you go into someone's environment and they're an established person, be humble. Like, go walk in with like knowing that you are not the big fish in that pond. That you're walking into someone's castle. You're walking into someone's house. And like, if I walk into your house just practically, and I start taking off my shoes and I just start grabbing stuff, and you're like, bro, what are you doing in my house? Like, chill. Like, I can get it for you. But now, when you become part of that environment, yeah, you become family. But when you're not in that environment, don't. That's not how you approach. So, how you approach someone is you say, I'm so-and-so. I'm very interested in the industry that you're in. Can I volunteer or serve in any way? I'll clean your floors. I will make coffee for you. I'll do any runs you need in exchange for me being able to just sit there. Now, being able to sit there doesn't mean I'm gonna talk when I get in the room. No. When you sit there, you just sit there and observe. And that's it. And you will learn so many things. Now, you might not be in a class, like people are actually teaching you, but we talk about this. Some things are taught and some things are caught. When you're the fly in that room, catch things. Watch the person that's there. Listen to their business calls. How does that person talk? How does his voice move? Oh, now he's switching. Oh, there's lunchtime. Oh, there's this. He observe and watch. Take notes. And then at the end of the day, kindly ask. I have some questions that I observed that I might need some explanation. Do you have some time, or can I shoot them to you on an email, or whatever is convenient for you? Because they're allowing you into their world. And that is like a life hack in itself. This is a life hack because we're sharing these things with you that we've learned or we've experienced. But I'm saying this, putting it out there, because these are real things that happen to us when young people come to us, that maybe if it was a different approach, they could have access to the entire kingdom that we've built. So please, guys, be humble. No one needs to give you anything. You don't deserve anything. Walk in and just observe. Now, everybody in their life should have 3 types of people, okay? They should have people that are teaching you things. So you align yourself to, if you're a producer, align yourself to a strong producer, align yourself to a mixer, align yourself to a master engineer, like, and just sit there and be, buy them lunch. Go buy them. I'm serious, guys. Like,
no one will turn down free lunch.
Yeah, when you're going in, like, hey, I'm stopping at Starbucks. Can I bring you something? It's $7. Believe me, it's cheaper than paying for college. Okay, listen to me. I'm serious. I know. I went through that. Okay, so. Do the most when you're in there. Like, go above and beyond. Like, whoa, when someone does that for me, I'm like, not only is he cleaning my floors, but he's also bringing me coffee. Like, whoa, yeah, that's gonna open up some stuff, and I'm gonna want to share more with that person of whatever it is they want to learn, because it's a give and take. It's not just a take. Okay, so don't be a taker. I'm here because I want to know, and that's all. Like, no. Give back to whatever is given to you, okay? So find some people that are masters of the craft, that can pour into you, that can lead you, that can teach you, and have those people. Then, if you really want to be about it, find some friends that like to do what you do. If you're a hip-hop rapper, find some friends that rap so you can, like, practice freestyling. If you're a producer, find some friends that know a little bit more than you and that are willing to, hey, let's make a beat. Let's go. Like, some people go to clubs and spend their money and dance all night for 7 or 8 hours. But these serious guys that really want to grow, they're at home producing, making beats, developing their craft. Nothing wrong with if you want to go in a club that's all in you. If you're like, you're in finance all day, you probably need to go do that. I love finance because they make you money, but that's not for me. That's not my why. That's not my what. We need the whys and the whats of finance, but that's not my lane. I let them do it. But as a person that is focused, like, there's no time to waste. No time to waste. So find yourself some friends that you can exchange ideas. Like, oh, look, my mentor taught me this. Let me show you what I learned. And they're going to be like, what? I need a mentor too. Before you know it, everyone's mindset, everyone's thought process is like, how can we have all this amazing fun that we love to do and make money? If you're a singer, go do songwriters in the rounds. Go find people that like to sing and share runs, or who can do a better run, and let it challenge you. Don't be intimidated by people, because what happens is most people in this industry are like, no, this is mine. No, this is me. Unless you're paying me, or no, like, it's no synergy comes from that. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing is birthed from you grabbing your gift and shutting it down. Share it. Let them steal it. Let them take your ideas. Like, creativity comes from a lot of places, and it's endless. So if that one run that you have that you don't want to share it with, like, hopefully you can come up with more runs, because if you can't, then that's an issue in itself. But get with people that like the same thing. It'll challenge you in a very healthy way. Go out to eat with them. Talk about the best songs. Talk about artists. Maybe they'll share an artist with you that you've never heard. Like, synergy, guys. Like, together. Like, so people that can mentor you, and people that are your age, your level, that you can share with. Very, very, very good people. That's very good. Those 2 types of people. But lastly, and this is the one that also solidifies to see if you're growing, is find someone or someones that are not as good as you, and share what you are being shared. So if you have a mentor, be a mentor. Like, it helps you. Like, if you can learn something from someone and then you can teach it to someone, you're learning it double. Automatically, science, that's already science, it's proven. It's not something like, oh, he came and is making that up. No, it's proven that when you learn something and you can teach it or show it or talk about it, you learn it double, you solidify it within your mind and your system. So these are very practical things that I'm giving you. Find those 3 types of people in your life so that you can solidify your what, and then move forward with a group of people, because this industry is not for people that are islands. Not. This is not that. If you're like if you want to be in your room by yourself and that's it, not for you. That's not it. Like, you need to be around people that, if you're a performer, they're gonna tell you, hey, let's go work out. Hey, let's go running, and let's go run and sing. Like, get around people that are gonna push you to be the best that you can be. So for all of you guys, listen, you need to have those 3 types of people. Find them, seek them out, call, email, and I guarantee you, if you have the right attitude, it will come through.
Yeah. One of the things that he just said, that Chris just said, I'll echo it. The music industry and careers in music, successful careers in music, don't happen in a vacuum. It does not happen in a vacuum. It does not happen by you being on an island. And I'll continue to echo that because I think a lot of people and a lot of you, and there's a time for this. There is a time for incubation, and
for sure.
I'm going to just sit in my room and work and learn my craft and grow. But growth isn't just, and I think that's what we're trying to get across, is growth isn't just, can I do this? And I've said this, where relationships in the music industry are the most important thing. Yeah. If you come into a production session with me and you're a fly in the wall, what you're going to see is not, and let's say it's an 8-hour session or a 6-hour session. You're not going to see 6 hours of non-stop music creation. You're going to see 6 hours of interaction, of patience, of psychology, of studying, of talking about other parts of their life. It's not just, hit play and just work non-stop. There's more of a people person thing that happens with production. With what I do and with producers, you look at someone like Rick Rubin, like George Martin, like all of these great producers, and what they are great at is understanding people. And if you aren't great at understanding people, being around, seeing a session happen like that, and it's like, wow, I like to think that I have a lot of patience. Not everybody has, patience for everything, but I feel like I am a pretty patient person. And I think that is a skill that helps me really enjoy my because music production with an artist is half making music and half being a psychiatrist to them and helping them get out those things. So music, a career in music doesn't happen on an island. So what I see also is a lot of producers, and I'm speaking specifically about producers, but it can also be, film people, whatever, where you're locking yourself in your room, you're not interacting with anybody, and then you're putting out tracks and putting out tracks and putting out tracks, and they're not getting heard. Nobody is caring about them because guess what? Nobody knows. You're not interacting with anybody outside of that. Yeah. You're putting out a track and you don't have a mentor that one is helping you say, hey, you should think about this and think about this, and maybe this will help your music be better. You don't have friends that are at your level that you're able to share and get excited about this music with, that they can share. And then you don't have anybody underneath you that is also, you're sharing what you're learning. And so when you put out songs and there's nobody listening, well, why would anybody listen if you've been living on an island for the past year? Yeah. How does anybody know that anything is out? And so there's so much growth that happens in your what do I do by making sure that you're around people. I have my people, Chris has his people, that there's people that are ahead of me. And I look at and I say, I'm gonna walk right behind you. If you start running, I'm gonna start running right behind you because you understand something I don't, and I want to get to that point. it's inspiring. It's inspiring to see people doing what you want to be doing. And when they also understand this, they are the ones that you're the person that they're feeding into. You're the person that they're mentoring. So it has to work that way. And so that inspiration is going to bring us to this next part, where is be around places where what's are being mastered. Okay? Well, the first one was be around people that are who have mastered their what. Be around places where people are mastering, where what's are being mastered. So we talked about synergistic movements. We talked about cultural epicenters. I love history. I love just always going back and how did we get here? And if you're a songwriter, something that you need to very be aware of is, the beat poet movement that happened in New York in 50s and 60s, right? So in the 60s, there was a synergistic movement that happened. There's plenty of content about this out there, and you can go anything that talks about Bob Dylan, anything that talks about Simon and Garfunkel, all of these people. There was a synergistic movement that happened in New York where songwriters flocked there, and they would meet and they would share songs, and there was something happening there that songwriters just flocked to. Same thing happened in Laurel Canyon towards the end of the 60s. That's where you get groups like the Byrds. That's where you get the Mamas and the Papas. That's where you get even I know that Ringo Starr and George Harrison would go from the Beatles. They would go to LA because there was something happening there. And it was this idea of, there's something happening here and I need to be around it. I need to be in it. Same thing that happened in the jazz world in New York and in Chicago in the 20s, 30s, 40s. All of a sudden there was this, there's something happening there. I need to go there and just be a part of it. Even just see it. Here in Dallas, for a long time, there was a Wednesday night jam session that happened, and a lot of Erykah Badu's people would go there. A lot of incredible musicians, guys and girls that were coming off tours with Justin Timberlake and all of these people would go and do these jam sessions. That was a synergistic movement of, you want to see people who have mastered their what? Go there. You want to see, if you're in Nashville and you want to see people that have mastered their what? Go to the Bluebird Cafe. Don't try to perform at the Bluebird Cafe at the beginning. Just go and watch. Go and watch and see what's happening. And ask yourself, is that one of my whats? So it's all of those things. And now I don't necessarily think, especially in this day and age, you have to physically be there, because now we have the luxury of online communities. Online communities where you can get together with people that are also doing their what, and saying, hey, share with me a little bit more about what you're doing. Now, what I'm not talking about is DMing people and saying, yo, listen to my track. That's not what I'm talking about. That is not a synergistic movement. That is selfish.
Yeah, for sure.
That is selfish, and that does not work. That is not synergistic. That is not organic.
Yeah, I delete that stuff.
That is a quick, hard pass.
Yeah.
That is not how you join a community. Okay? So, period. I promise you, there is nobody in the industry that responds to that. Yo, share my track. Why? I don't know you. Okay? So, joining an online community, I'm a part of different online communities that talk about different things. I'm really into synths. And there's an online community here in Dallas where people get together and share different things that they're learning about. I tried this. with my synth. I've got this synth and I tried this. I've never tried that before. Guys, you should try this. And then everybody goes and tries it. And it's information that we're passing along to each other that is helping each of us master our whats.
Yeah.
And those kind of communities, sure, every once in a while you can share tracks and that kind of thing, but it's not about that. And it's very easy to tell when it is about that.
Yeah.
But when there is a genuine, hey, I've got this knowledge, something is happening here, this is a place where a what is being mastered, I need to go there. So,
and I'm gonna add that. So if there's that, and even in these circles, you can look at it as like what we talked about before. These are circles of mastery.
Yeah.
But I actually want to talk about one of our artists, and his name's Psyche. He developed one with his peers, and he started a movement called Outsider Kids, and they would get together, popped up at a bridge that we have here locally, and they would all share that they were going to be there that night. They would take out some speakers, and all of a sudden there's like 50, 60 people showing up to just do the same thing that everybody loves. Like no one had to be good, no one had to be like amazing. It was like, we're just gonna come out here, first of all, be around people that we know that like the same things, and all of a sudden it's like hanging out, and then these people would get together, these young people would get together on the side notes and share, and one would learn something and then share it with someone else, and it's like, that's a synergistic movement of peers, which is also cool because that's how other movements kind of started that ended up being pretty big. So if you don't have one in your city, why don't you start one?
Create one.
Yeah. Because at that point, what I saw from him is that he was giving to the community. Mm-hmm. Like he was creating a platform for the community. And you know what? Even when I go out into like the underground world of hip hop in our city, and we're in places, literally every third person that I encounter when I'm with him, they're talking about Outsider Kids. And I even heard someone say like, man, that changed my life, or that saved my life. Like, bro, if someone like that, if you're associating like you saved my life if people around you are associating that you saved my life to you, when you put out a track, bet they're gonna share your stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's synergistic. That's a synergistic peer movement. So there's the areas of mastery, just like it is go find a mentor, but then there's these peer movements that can enhance what you're doing and who you're doing, and don't go in it, because I'm telling you, Psyche didn't go in it like, oh, I'm gonna create this so that I can share my tracks. That was not the reason it happened. The reason it happened is because he loved what he did, and he had friends that did too, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, let's go do this because there's people that are walking around on this bridge, they might like our stuff too, and all of a sudden, there's a group of people that showed up every time they tweeted that that Outsider Kids was gonna be at the
and you're
Market
creating something like that created an environment for the first thing that we talked about, being around people, because you're creating an environment where, one, there's going to be peers, but that's also going to draw people that are going to be a little bit further, that are mentors, and there's going to draw people that aren't quite there yet that you can mentor.
Yeah, it's like right now, I mentor him. I want to share. Look up Psyche Mind, Spotify, Apple. I'm sharing this platform right here on this live. Why? Because I've seen what he does, and it's not like, oh, it's all about me. That's not how it works. So you'll have your mentors when they see that, be like, man, like, let me go there. So check them out. Like, really, shout out to Outsider Kids and everybody that's involved. Like, bro, like, for real, 100. Like, that should be done in every city. Yeah. For real.
So, with something like that, all of those are movements, right? They're movements that are happening, and movements that have happened before in history. Again, I said I'm really big on history, and that brings me to my next thing, where movements like that, like Outsiders Kid, they've happened in the past. They have. Mm-hmm. They've happened in different areas, like what I talked about, like what happened in New York.
Started like that.
Like where hip hop started in New York.
And it wasn't started with rappers. They had breakdancers.
Yeah.
They had people with
and there was an environment that was a breeding ground for people that ended up mastering their craft, that understood their what by seeing other people doing that. So a lot of it is knowing your history as well.
That movement revolutionized the music industry.
It revolutionized everything.
And it started on the streets.
Yeah.
Like I remember, John, when the awards, like the music awards were coming up, there wasn't a category for rap. And I remember when it was like the very first time, it was a big deal. And there was actually like a controversy, like, was that really music? Is that really singing? It's an art.
Yeah.
And it started on the streets. It started with probably like 4 or 5 guys, and then it just started becoming a movement. And then movies were made. Remember Breaking and Breaking 2? And it was, man, it's great. Yeah. Do it, guys. You guys can do it.
So all of those movements that happened, understanding the history of those things. I'm really, really big on, you've got to know where you came from to know where you're going, okay? And understanding the history of things. That's so easy nowadays. Reading autobiographies. I love reading autobiographies. And one, I think you should definitely, reading is huge because there's a different part of your mind that is exercised when you read. But there's also so many documentaries about people and about their life. And guess what? When you see certain people's life played out, it'll tell you, oh, I respect that person, but that's not what I actually want to do. That'll help you when we're talking about defining your what. You know, you don't have to be in the room with Quincy Jones to watch a documentary about him and say, "Ooh, that sounds like fun to me," or "Oh, that's not it. That's not it for me." And so, watching documentaries, learning the history of your craft, also learning the history of your craft. If you're a songwriter, do you know the songwriters that came before you and how they learned their craft?
Who they studied. So when you're talking about defining your what and how to master it, is who mastered it before you and who mastered it before them and who mastered it before them, and following that all the way back. So doing your homework in terms of that, and it'll help you decide if this is something that you want to pursue. So doing your homework leads us to our next point, which is you can't escape college, guys.
Can't escape college.
You cannot escape college at all.
But
go ahead. Well,
no,
you can't escape college, and I say this. We say this because of this. You have to put in your 10,000 hours, and really, what college is somewhat, because, again, history. Like John's saying, there were no colleges before. Before, the formal institution of learning did not exist, and way back in the day, what was happening was you got an apprenticeship. You went and you were an apprentice with someone, like when Mozart and all of the Beethoven, all of those, they would die, and then the person that was with them would finish their pieces, and they knew them so well because they would. When you had an apprenticeship, you would go live with that person. You were the one that cleaned their house. You were the one that made the food. You were the one that, and I don't know, probably, well, I mean, maybe you can send me a DM and you can come clean my house, but I'm telling you, they went and like literally absorb the brain of this person to be able to get the knowledge that person had acquired. They were life hacking, so let me go get near them. So there, and usually when someone like that, they had like a little guest room, and the person would live out there, and they, so they would, in exchange of whatever, of cleaning or whatever, the person could sit and ask questions of, why are you writing this piece this way? Why are you doing this? It's like, and this I learned in college. So I had to go pay thousands of dollars to go and learn all these things that people did. So before, there were no institutions. So you can go to college if you like, and it's a great. It's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a waste of time. I think you acquire knowledge, a lot of,
if that's how you learn,
right? A concentrated knowledge in the amount of 4 years or 6 years, whatever that may be, and you get the concentration of that. Now, maybe you're like, oh, I don't like English and I don't like math, and I get it. Like, there's a lot of entrepreneurial minds. There's a lot of, new ways of learning. Everything's online. Like, seriously, there's nothing online that you can't find. Like, if you don't know how to cook a chicken, you can look it up.
There's a
if you don't know how to change your oil, you can look it up.
There's a YouTube video for that.
I promise you, something for everything. You know how to make coffee? There's a video for that.
Yeah.
But you can go and again, like I said at the beginning, find someone that's good and go there. Now, where it becomes difficult is for a performer, like, because most people that are good that you want to kind of get with, most of them you say, okay, that's J. Cole, or that's Beyonce, or whoever, and they're kind of a little more difficult to get to. But you can study them in many different ways. Like John's saying, we have a whole lot of information online. There's a thing called master classes, and they're online mixed with the masters and Slate Academy if you're a producer. And I think even some like Christina Aguilera is doing like vocal coaching on some of those. If you're a vocalist, if you're a performer, like there's so many things that if you get in the mindset of like, you know what, I'm gonna pay this. I'm gonna invest in myself. I'm gonna invest in myself to be better. That's your college. You have to get your 10,000 hours.
Not gonna skip that.
Not gonna happen. And here's why. There's so many artists that even during this time of quarantine that did great music, and they, and I'm just kind of overseeing how music went from like hyper pop and club music, and hip hop was like club music, and then all of a sudden these emerging new artists of very emotional, very transparent, has shifted the music industry. And that's because a lot of the artists that were creating music and were popping off during this season were in quarantine, and they had their laptops and weren't able to get with a producer because none of that. California shut down, New York shut down, so people were figuring it out, and the level of music kind of morphed a little bit. And you can't take someone from the bedroom. I mean, you can, but if you do, there's gonna be a lot of complications if you throw them on a stage and on a tour within those 6 months. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of learning. And then if a label plucks someone out of a bedroom and then puts them on a stage, and it's just a fact because I know that Billie put it out there on her documentary. But I saw Billie go on tour. If you haven't seen the documentary, go and watch it because you can learn so much from it, guys. Billie went on tour, and these are details that I watch because this is what I do. But Billie went on tour, and that first week that she was on tour, she was wearing tape on her legs. That is for a reason, and maybe she didn't work out as much to prepare. Maybe, I don't know, but there's a reason. You have to prepare your mind, you have to prepare your body, you have to prepare your stamina, you have to prepare yourself that there's less sleep on tour, and that's not learned by being in your bedroom, Now, let's say they pluck you and they put you on a tour, you're gonna learn that. You're gonna get your 10,000 hours really quick because you're gonna learn that. You're gonna learn that through pain. You're gonna learn that through failure. You're gonna learn that somehow, but you will learn that. So maybe take an inventory of your mindset and think, if I'm gonna have to learn that, even if it's on the rush and I'm on a tour and last minute and I'm gonna have to, that might overwhelm me, that might like make me hate this. Why would you do that then and not do it now? So find the things that'll give you your 10,000 hours that you can do, that you can copy and redo, recreate. If you're a producer, you should be recreating tracks to learn how to make tracks. Yeah, that's what I did at university. My producers, in my track of jazz studies, my track included music production. And the very first thing that we did is reproduce a track. Why? Because you start hearing things that you didn't know were there. And if I'm gonna tell you really simple, get an instrumental track, you can get it anywhere, put it into your Pro Tools, Logic, whatever it is you use, try to recreate it. When you're recreating it, you're like, oh, I think I got it. Mute the main track. If it doesn't sound like nothing happened, like you didn't hit mute, something's wrong. You're missing elements. Simple, it's practical. Yeah. But I had to do it, and I had to get a grade for it myself personally. You can do it for yourself. Figure out ways to get better. These are little practical things, nuggets that we're giving to you for free. Like, do it. This is the type of stuff I teach when I'm teaching production. As an artist developer, my songwriters, my artists need to learn how to capture their songs, recreate really good tracks. So we do that. We sit down and I'm like, hey, hit mute. Oh, it looks like it sounded like it changed. Something's wrong. You're missing something. What is it? And we sit there and we listen, we analyze, we dissect. And that takes maybe being on a track for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's trial and error, it's time, it's patience, it's 10,000 hours. And you're going to hear us say the 10,000 hours thing a lot. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Google it.
Just Google it.
Just Google it. Google 10,000 hours. What is 10,000 hours? And you'll understand what we're talking about. But it's trial and error. It's time. It's patience. It's investing into your what? Into this is what I do. And I've invested time into mastering what I do.
Yeah.
So.
No, guys, I've had producers reach out, I've had artists reach out, and then we have this, and that's why even in my last video I said this is the first conversation I have. Are you willing to do all these things? Because I want to make sure that you can see a panoramic picture of what you're telling me you want to do before you invest all that time and money. And that's a life hack in itself. Like, that's part of going and seeing someone that does what it is, or at least knows enough about it to be honest with you. If someone says like, oh yeah, you can make it, like, guarantee you, they probably just wanted you for your money. It's very hard to make it in the industry, but if you think like a business, that's already way ahead of a lot of people. If you're good at your craft, that's way ahead of a lot of people. Like if you already exercise, that's way ahead of a lot of people too. And I'm not saying, oh, you gotta be skinny, none of that. I'm saying you're gonna be on a tour, you're gonna have to keep your breath in control because you're singing into a microphone, and keep a note. After your third song, if you're still doing choreo and you wanna be a pop star, or if you're a hip hopper that's very energetic or whatever, if you're not healthy, you're not gonna have a good note. You're gonna have breathing into the microphone. Those are conversations that you maybe didn't think of because you're in your bedroom or you're only performing one song at coffee shops. I don't know, whatever. But these 4 or 5 practical things that we gave you are to help you define your what. Help you figure out, okay, I don't know that I wanna be a performer. This is what happened to me. I studied jazz. And I was like, I love jazz. I'm pretty good at it. I actually won the top vocalist for the UNT festival of jazz that John was talking about earlier. I got the top vocalist in the nation. Okay, that's great. I'm good at it. But can I wake up to that every morning? Like, I could do jazz, and I love jazz. Don't get me wrong, I love jazz. But I also love hip hop. I also love pop music. I love acoustic music. I love classical music. Yeah. Like, I want to dabble in all of those, and I know theory well enough to be able to handle any of that, and it fulfills me. But I also love working with people. And for me, being on the stage, that didn't fulfill that need for me. And I had to do other things. And so artist development and music production and managing does that for me, because I can hop on the stage and sing still.
Yeah.
You know?
So and with this, it's also, it brings us to just the last point that we want to make, which is defining your what is not saying, okay, well, I only do one thing and I'm just stuck inside of that box. That's not what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. We're talking about mastering what you do. But mastering what you do could be you do a few things. Mm-hmm. And there's somebody right now that I respect so much is Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. Mm. Childish Gambino, I love his music. I think he is musically making some of the most creative music that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But he's mastered that. In my opinion, he's mastered that. The artist, the music, everything that has to do with branding an artist, with visuals, with his music videos are so good. Mm-hmm. His music is so good. How he carries himself, how he performs, all of that. He's mastered it. But he's also mastered the acting, production, film world. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen Atlanta, so good, incredibly done. His ability as a storyteller, he has mastered that. Okay? Now, it's taken time for him to do that. Mm-hmm. He has at least 2 that I just mentioned, that he's mastered. Mm-hmm. okay, that are both tied to his core why. They both live in the same world as his core why, which is his anchor. They're both anchored to his why, but they're two different things that, yes, interlace, but he has mastered his ability to be a storyteller, to be a director, to be an actor from his time doing Community. You know, he was on that show Community, where he mastered that art. And then he went on to produce and star in his own stuff. But he also took the time to master that. Other people that have done that, I mentioned Quincy Jones earlier. There's a documentary about Quincy Jones where he mastered what it was to be a jazz musician. But then he also mastered what it was like to be a big band arranger with his time working with Frank Sinatra. Then he mastered film work. Then he mastered pop music by producing the best-selling pop album of all time with Thriller and Michael Jackson. He mastered that. He is a master of all of those things. And so for him, mastering that many things, not just dabbling in that many things, but mastering that many things took so much time. And you'll see it if you read his autobiography or you watch the documentary. Dude doesn't sleep. He hasn't slept for the past 80 years. So all of those things, you can have multiple whats, but each of them are going to require their own 10,000 hours. And you're just not, everything that we talked about, from the people, the movement, synergistic movement, from college, whether that's actual college or whether that's your own version of college, all of those things have to happen for each what. They do. That's a lot of work. So it's defining your what or your multiple whats, whatever those are, as long as they are anchored to your why, defining those things and realizing that mastering those things requires everything that we just talked about. So defining your what.
Yeah, before we close up, as an artist, you don't have to have a lot of whats. You can also have good people that are good at those whats and bring them onto your team, which now you have to be good at. Part of your what should be good at leadership and administration of people and projects. So, or building a team that does that. So just because Quincy Jones did that doesn't mean you have to do that. Just because, you know, Childish Gambino does that doesn't mean you have to do that at all. That's what they decided, and it's not wrong, and it's great for whoever wants to do that. But
I'm sure they've made other sacrifices in order to do that too.
Exactly. And so if you're like, well, I just want to perform, that's okay. But these things, video is real, Photoshop is real, like all these things that you have to execute, marketing is real. Anything you can't do, and this is specifically for independent artists, anything you can't do yourself, someone has to do it, or you have holes. So sometimes whats are established because of the bigger why, and you learn things. You have to learn things. You have to learn how to run an ad. How else you can expand your tents? You gotta figure it out. So, a lot of whats and how to define them are attached to your why, and that was today's episode.
Yeah. So, if you haven't watched our Defining Your Why video, make sure you go back and watch that. You can find that on our YouTube channel. You can find that on our website, thecreativesfactory.com. You can find that on our social media. On Instagram, we're at Creatives Factory. You'll find that. And make sure you go back and watch Defining Your Why, because that is the anchor to your what. That is the fuel for your what. And your what is something that is the doing, and it is something that you have to master. And if you need, further, just how do I master that? I know what I want to master, and you want to dive deeper, reach out to us, and we'd love to help you with that. But you've got to have a why. So go back and watch that video.
For sure. And stay connected. We're going to have more stuff coming out, so that these are practical things. So if you need help and guidance, that's what these videos are for. They're to help you and lead you and give you inspiration. So connect with us every week, noon, Fridays, at Creatives Factory. Thank you for watching. Have an amazing weekend.